go!
Hey guys, it's Retrohead here, and welcome back to another video. Today is a bit of a different video, and this is something that I never actually thought I'd be able to do, and that is a 2,000 subscriber Q&A. So anyone that's been supporting the YouTube channel, I really appreciate it. I cannot believe it, but I've reached 2,000 subscribers, and for that I thought I'd do a Q&A. I have done one on the channel before, but that was absolutely months and months ago. I've had absolutely loads of really good questions to answer today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and please subscribe to my channel Retrohead. But without further ado, let's get to these questions. So I'm not going to waste no time and get started on the questions. If I keep looking down, that is because I've got my laptop set up right underneath the camera. So I'm reading the questions from that, so sorry if I keep looking down. But the first one is from the Sonic Zone YouTube. And that is congratulations on 2,000, thank you very much. And if you could design a Nintendo console or system, what would the system be like, and what games would it be like too? So for the console, it would be a really big console. It'd be like a big box like this, quite big. It'd be able to play every single Nintendo game ever released, all the way up to the NES to the Switch, but also home console and handheld, because I absolutely love consoles like the DS, 3DS, Game Boy Advance and stuff like that, but you can't play those on the telly very easily. So it'd be a console that could play games all the way from the NES right up to modern day, but also be able to play other games, like handheld games on the TV. That would be an absolute dream to have, I reckon. The next one is from the world of Jake, and he's asked me 3 questions, and they're all really good questions. So the first one is, what is your favourite gaming pickup? I'll leave a link to this video in the description, but it was absolutely months ago, and I picked up an Atari Jaguar in the box, and that is one of the most wanted items I've ever had in my collection, so that was probably my favourite gaming pickup. And the next one was, what was your absolute worst gaming pickup? And I've not got like a specific answer for that, but way before I ever started having a YouTube channel, I used to be big into collecting the huge standees. And some of the standees that I bought, I paid a lot of money for, and I just had no room to display them, so they literally just sat in the corner, literally just in the way, and then I had to sell them for probably a little bit less than I paid for them. So probably some of the huge standees that I bought in the past is my worst gaming pickups. And also, just editing this video back, I remembered another really bad one that I had. And that is, I bought an Xbox One the day it came out, and I really regretted buying that console as I could not get on with it. I wanted to buy a PS4 the day it came out, but there were so many shortages of it, I settled for an Xbox One, and I really wish I hadn't. And finally, are there any other consoles beside the GameCube that you're going to go for the full set for? Probably not before I've completed the GameCube full set. I'd rather do that first and then maybe focus on something else. I'm also trying to go for the full Player's Choice GameCube set. So probably after I've completed, if I can complete, the GameCube full set, not the Player's Choice one, because I'm not in no rush to do that. The only other one I could see myself going for is the Wii U full set, so maybe that in the future, but I'm not really sure yet. The next question is from someone who has an absolutely awesome name, and that is Biscuit Goblins. And the question is, you've mentioned previously that your dad is also a big video game fan. Do you think he will one day feature on one of your videos? And to that I'm going to say no, and that is because he doesn't have much time and I don't have much time where we could both be free and be in a video. And also, he only collects Sega, as I've said loads of times. Me is Nintendo, PlayStation, Atari and Neo Geo. And my dad exclusively collects the Sega, and he doesn't pick up stuff very often. He only picks up the stuff that like he can remember from when he was a kid, or super niche things that he likes to have in the collection. So he doesn't really pick up enough stuff to warrant being in lots of different videos. And also, me and him aren't really free at any time, like together, to do a video. And also, he's very camera shy, so that I'd say definitely not anytime soon. The next question is from Standard User, and that was, who or what inspired you to start doing YouTube? So there's like a few YouTube channels that I did watch and still watch now that inspired me to start YouTube. But what inspired me to do YouTube was I only did like a few videos on my Retrohead channel as like just to try it out and see where it went. Like, I wasn't particularly planning on like years later doing 2 videos a week and like taking it seriously or anything like that, but I'm glad that I have. I just never thought that I'd be able to do that. I never thought anyone would really watch them, to be fair. But the channels that inspired me to do that was probably Dan the Games Man, PS2 Mini Games, Gentleman of Games, just loads of the retro gaming YouTubers around the UK. I don't really watch many channels from abroad, but all of like the UK based ones I mainly check in every now and again at least. There's a few channels like the ones I mentioned that I watch every single video for, but there's lots of other channels that I just watch the odd video here and there. But I used to watch quite a lot of gaming YouTube. I don't watch quite as much now. I have a channel, and a lot of the free time that I've got is put in towards my Retrohead channel, but I still do watch a lot of gaming YouTubers. The next question is from Forever Westbound, and the question is, if you could either only collect or play games, which one would you pick and why? And to that I would say definitely play games. And that is because in the past I've thought about getting into retro toy collecting. And I have sort of dabbled in and out of retro toy collecting. I've had a few bits, bought them and sold them, but mainly trying to keep them. But they take up a lot of room. But what I'm saying about that is when you have like a toy, like an action figure or something like that, it just sits on the shelf and you can't play with it overly easily, especially when they're old ones. You don't really want to be like playing them very much at all, really. But I like the fact that you can play games and like not damage them. And also games have such like deep experiences. Like for me, a game on the shelf looks awesome on the shelf. It's great to have in the collection. But most of the time it's such a great experience that I like to play my games. And I just don't think you can do that so much with like other forms of collecting like toys and that. So yeah, that is what I do. Definitely play my games. The next question is from Mark Andrews, and he's asked an absolutely awesome question as well. And that is, watching this video, never really played any of the Pokemon games, but I especially enjoyed the background music for the footage of the Pokemon game. Any particular favourite background music tunes in games that you've played? And a brief explanation of why. Doesn't have to be a particularly ordered list for the top music, because it can change for no reason. So what is something that you've enjoyed hearing in a game? There is a very, very good PSP game called Infected. It's orange and it's got like a hand like that coming out the top. I think it's about £10 in CX. It's a great game, a horror game, and I don't play many horror games, but it is a really good one. But in that game, there is some absolutely brilliant music, mainly from Slipknot, but also tunes from like Fear Factory. I think a bit of Napalm Death in there as well. I'm not entirely sure. But I remember playing that game years ago and absolutely loving the soundtrack to that game. But another game that I enjoy the soundtrack of, and I'm sure absolutely tons of people have already said this, but I completely agree, is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Because that soundtrack is just absolutely awesome. The next question is from Private Wayno, and that is, where do you get your game disc resurfaced? My CX always say the machine isn't working, and I don't have a machine myself. Quite a handy thing for me is I have a very small, very cheap one that I use every now and again. But I actually know someone who has a resurfacer who actually does resurface quite a few discs for me. So that is a really handy thing to have. The next question is from quite a difficult name to pronounce, so I'm not going to say the name, but it is a great question. And that is, do you have any Neo Geo AES games? I've got tons of them. Sold one recently for 1,200 quid. Mental. No, I would love to have some Neo Geo AES games, but I don't have any in the collection. The only Neo Geo console I actually do collect for is the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is a great system to collect for as well. The next question is from B3, and that is, have you done a video showing us a tour of your games room, or would you consider doing one? Would love to see more of your collection and toys that you have in your collection. And that I would say I haven't done one, and I would like to do one at some point in the future, and I probably will in the future. But my games room is very, very different to how a lot of other people have their games rooms. I actually have two, and one of them houses mainly a lot of my PS2, original Xbox, Wii U games and stuff like that, all my PS1 stuff as well. But this room here actually holds all of like my Nintendo stuff, my absolute favourite stuff. So I probably will do one at some point. But with the channel taking up so much time and getting this room exactly how I want it for a game room tour, probably not anytime soon. The next two questions we have is from Anthony Darcy, and that is, well done 2,000 subscribers. Keep up the good videos, thank you very much. And the question is, what game has your favourite soundtrack? Again, that would be Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 and probably Infected as well. And the other question is, what console has your most favourite controller and why? And that is for me definitely either one of two, the GameCube or the Super Nintendo. Now, the Super Nintendo was the first controller to ever have shoulder buttons, and I love the layout of the controller, and the D-pad is really good. But I also love the GameCube controller as well, because just the shape of it like fits in your hand really well, and the buttons are like exactly where you'd want them. I know the A, B, X and Y are in a really strange layout, but for me when I'm playing like Mario Sunshine or games like that, it works really, really well. But let me know in the comments, what is your favourite video game controller? Because that is a great question. The next question is from Luke Brown, and this is a really good question. I'm one of the first 1,000. I've been loving your channel from the start as of late, so thank you very much. I've been on a Wii U craze and want to get all of the 163 games. And I was wondering, what games are your favourite and what are underrated in your opinion? And a second question is, do you think the Wii U is a good console? I would love to also see a Wii and Wii U collection tour. I probably will do a video at some point of my Wii and Wii U collection because I love both of those collections. Next question, do I think the Wii U is a good console? Absolutely. I think not enough people like the Wii U. And no one seems to give the Wii U credit, even though everyone gives the Switch credit. And now no one gives the Wii U credit it needs, because Mario 3D World, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, a lot of those games that are nearly the same on the Switch started on the Wii U, yet still no one seems to give the Wii U credit. I was one of the people that bought the Wii U the day it came out, and I bought this one up here, the Mario and Luigi Premium Pack. That is my day one Wii U. And I've been playing that very console ever since. I absolutely love the console. I definitely use it more than I use my Switch as well. And my top 3 Wii U games would probably have to be Mario Kart 8, Mario 3D World, which was a game that I bought the day it came out as well. It's a great game. And also, one that not many people talk about, and that is also released on Switch, is Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is basically a puzzle game where you play as Toad and you're on all of these different levels. But the main thing about the game is you can't jump. You have to stay completely on the ground, but you can use like platforms to lift you up and bring you down and stuff. It's an absolutely awesome game. Also released on the 3DS. So if you haven't played that game, I definitely recommend it. The next question is from Gamer Lil Ico, and there's some good question here. So as most of the questions are going to be gaming related, won't buck the trend, but I'll also ask you a music question. So number 1, up until COVID hit, I never bought any game magazines because my rooms are 50-50 between a record and game store. The last thing I need is to add the look of a library but in the mix. I also have heavy metal magazines, currently every issue of Decibel and Fistful of Metal. Fistful of Metal is a great magazine as well. And you'll only ever have so much space. I bought Retro Gamer from 208 at the start of the pandemic and every issue since. And I'm currently looking to collect a full set. I'm on eBay looking for the back issues. Your know and thoughts of the publication, and if you buy it. I do buy Retro Gamer. I buy Retro Gamer probably about since the start of the pandemic, to be fair. Got a yearly subscription for it. Really enjoy reading the magazines. Question 2, music-wise, I'd love to know your top 5 bands of all time. Mine are Kiss, original lineup, make it in the 70s. Number 2, Ozzy and Black Sabbath, original Black Sabbath lineup, and Ozzy solo with Randy Rhoads and Jake E. Lee. Number 3, Judas Priest. Number 4, Megadeth. Absolutely love Megadeth. And number 5, Manila Road. So I have actually checked out that album. It's an absolutely great album. So for the Retro Gamer question, yeah, I do collect Retro Gamer and I really enjoy reading the magazine. They're great magazines. And my top 5 bands of all time, again, like yourself, I'm a huge metal fan. So my top 5 bands of all time, the 4 are in no particular order, and number 1 is my number 1 favourite. So we have Machine Head, Lamb of God, Sepultura, and Kill to This. And my number 1 favourite band of all time is Fear Factory, as I absolutely love that band. Every single album is just so good. But yeah, thank you very much. There's some great questions there. The next question is from Femboy Tim, and that is, wow, on a roll with the charity shop finds. You mentioned recently in a short that CEX pay extra for Mario Kart Wii if you add an unboxed steering wheel. Do you know if they also pay extra for the Guitar Hero type games with the unboxed guitars? I believe they do. I've never actually traded one with the game. I've traded the guitars on their own. But I do think they pay extra for the unboxed guitars. But if you do know for definite, definitely leave it in the description, as I'm sure me, him, and lots of other people would like to know. The next mini set of questions is from Eric. There's some really good questions here. So the first one is, if you had to choose between becoming a musician or becoming an illustrator as a profession, what would you choose? And that would definitely be a musician, as I love my music. The next question is, would you like your own arcade machine, and if yes, which one? And I would love to have my own arcade machine. Maybe Sega Rally or a Daytona drive-in arcade machine. That'd be so cool. The next question is, if you had to develop or create your own video game, what genre would it be? And that is definitely a racing game, as they're one of my favourites. And finally, do you have any siblings? And that is a no, I don't have any siblings. The next question is from Luke Galchan, and that is, what is your top 3 most expensive games you have in your collection? I'm not 100% sure on this. I believe this is my top 3 most expensive games, but games change in price so often. But this is certainly up there for my top 3 most expensive games if it isn't. So the first one is Animal Crossing on the GameCube, but this is also the one that includes the memory card inside. in really, really good condition. I believe this is worth about 100 quid at the minute. Next up, we have Pokemon Colosseum. Now, you may think this is not an overly expensive game, about 40 to 50 quid. But inside, this is actually the copy that includes Pokemon Colosseum, but also Pokemon Box, which is a very expensive GameCube game. I paid £130 for this a while back, and I think it's about 140 quid now. And finally, I think this is my most expensive game that I have in my collection, and that is Daffy Duck Duck Rogers on the N64. Now, I paid £90 for this from Facebook Marketplace, which was an absolute bargain, as I think now this is worth about £180 to £200. That is at CEX, and in this condition, probably worth quite a bit more. And this is also a really good game as well. The next question is from Forever Arcade, and that is, what are your top 3 most favourite bands? So that is a little bit like the other question for what is your top 5 favourite bands. But now I'm going to have to narrow it down to a top 3, so that gets harder. So number 1 will still definitely be Fear Factory. And for 2 and 3, I'd probably say Kill to This, which is quite a small band from the UK who have put out some great albums. And also probably Machine Head as well. But that is very hard to pick for my top 3 favourite bands. Great question, but a very hard one. The next question is from Charlie, and that is, what got you into retro gaming? So for this, we are going to have to go back absolutely years and years and years and years ago. Probably well over 10 years ago now. And that was when we were sorting out our house that we had. And in this cupboard, my dad went in this cupboard and he pulled out his original Sega Saturn that he found. And didn't actually know that he still had it, I don't think. And we played that night. And I just remember being so, like, fascinated with how gaming used to be back then. Because I had no idea. Before that, I had absolutely no idea what gaming back then was like. I was pretty much just playing my GameCube, really, to be fair. So I had really no idea what gaming was like back then. And I just absolutely loved it and found it fascinating. And from there, I bought a couple of little retro systems. Nothing particular. I bought, like, an unboxed Super Nintendo really cheap somewhere. And then just kept getting more and more into it from there. So that was probably when I first got into my retro gaming. The next question is from Sam the Madman 5000. Again, a great name, and this is a very, very tough question. And that is top 3 favourite games of all time. And that is a really hard question. So my number 1 favourite game of all time is Super Mario Kart. And number 2 is Mario 3D World on the Wii U. I got those 2 quite quickly, but for the other one, that is really difficult. Probably linking back to the other question of what got you into retro gaming, the Saturn, which I first played with my dad probably 10 plus years ago, I would probably say, because we played that game so much, Sega Rally on the Sega Saturn, really just for the memories, but it is also a brilliant game. The next question is from Jenna, and that is, hi buddy, how old were you when you first started collecting? Love the videos. So this is a question that I would say, when I first played that Sega Saturn, and then bought a couple of bits, I wasn't really collecting, just because I bought a few like bits, didn't care about the condition, wasn't bothered about what they were like, just to play them. So I started collecting absolutely years and years later when I actually was playing the games a lot. So I would probably say, I was maybe about 10 or 11 years old when I first started buying the games and really cared about the condition and the manual and stuff like that. Yeah, probably about 11 years old, I would say. The next question is from Old and New Gamer, who I really enjoy watching his channel. And he's asked me what the most rarest and expensive game that I have in my collection is. And that is actually the same one. The most expensive game to me is probably the rarest one. And that is the Daffy Duck game on N64. I have never seen another copy of this in the flesh, complete in box. And it is a very expensive one. The next question is from Liam. And that is, looking forward to the Q&A. Love the channel. Thank you very much. And that is, do you enjoy playing Mega Drive games with your dad? And what is your favourite game to play? So, again, with a video, it's quite rare that we actually get the time that we can play a game at the same time. But we do that every now and again and really enjoy it. But for the Mega Drive, he doesn't overly collect for the Mega Drive that much because he never had one when he was a kid. But he does have quite a few Mega Drive games. We do enjoy playing a platformer together, so sort of any platforming games, Sonic the Hedgehog probably being the best one. But also racing games is one of our favourite genres as well. So games like Hang On and Road Rash are also really, really good ones. But any F1 game we also enjoy playing as well. The next question is from Matty Boy. And the question is, which item in your collection are you most proud of? And that is, and I'll insert a picture of this in, my Mario Kart GameCube. As this is, apart from the rip in the front, which does pain me, my original GameCube, that one is. And it's probably my favourite piece in my collection. Because it's like my original one. But also because of the condition it's in now and how cool it is. And you don't really see this bundle very often. So that is probably my most favourite and proud of piece in my collection. The next question is from Multiplat Gamer Guy, and the question is, have you ever tried any of the Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy games? And what are your favourites? My favourite Kingdom Hearts game is probably Kingdom Hearts 2, as I did enjoy that game, but I've not played many Kingdom Hearts games. But I have played more Final Fantasy games. And to be honest, my favourite one is one that no one ever mentions. I don't really know why it was my favourite, but that is Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on the Game Boy Advance. I absolutely love this game. I think it was the storytelling seems really good in this version, but I am a huge fan of the Game Boy Advance. I think it's a great console. So this is a very, very good game in my opinion, that no one seems to be talking about. The next question, and I believe the name is said L Boat for Goat, I believe, and that is number one, because there's a few questions here. What is your earliest gaming memory? And that is probably playing my GameCube for the first time. As I said, at the time, that console wasn't a retro console, so that was my earliest gaming memory, and retro gaming memory would be the Sega Saturn. Next game was, what is the first game that you've really loved and got addicted to? And that one would definitely be Mario Kart Double Dash, again, the game that came with my GameCube. An awesome game. The next question is, why is it the GameCube that you're trying to go for the full set for? And that is two reasons, really. Number one, like the nostalgia for the systems. I absolutely love that system. And number two, obviously there is quite a lot of games in the GameCube full set and quite a lot of expensive ones. But compared to other full sets, it's not like as hard to do as other full sets. It's like one that's probably in the middle. It's pretty hard, but not like stupidly hard. And also, there is some great games in the full set and ones I've always wanted to play. And the final question, and this one is a brilliant one. What is your top 5 favourite / most listened to albums? So this is a mixture of like probably listening time and favourite. So I'll save the number 1 favourite till last. Again, the other 4 are in no particular order. So the first one is, this is such a good album, and that is Kill to This Deviate. Now this is the Kill to This band that I mentioned earlier in the Q&A. And no one seems to mention this band ever, and like no one seems to have heard of them. They're a very, very small band. But this album is my favourite album of theirs, and it is absolutely brilliant. The next album is the self-titled 2009 album of Hatebreed. Now this is the album that is just called Hatebreed, as I said, and it is such a good album. And some of the tracks on here are absolutely incredible. Next up we have a Sepultura album, and that is Chaos AD. Now this is one of the earliest metal albums that I ever listened to, a great album. Refuse Resist, Territory, Biotech is Godzilla, some great tracks on that one. The next one's also a great one, again one of the earlier albums that I started listening to of the heavier stuff. And that is Slayer, Rain in Blood. Slayer is one of those bands that I like every single album. Slayer have not put out a bad album in my opinion. There is definitely ones that are better than others, like Diabolus and Musica is not as good as other Slayer albums, things like that, but it's still a great album. And finally, my number 1 most favourite album of all time, that is Demanufacture by Fear Factory. This album is just, I can't describe to you how much I love and how good this album actually is. I'll read you off a couple of my favourite tracks. Obviously we have Demanufacture. There's also tracks like Zero Signal, New Breed, Flashpoint, and one of my favourite riffs ever in metal is Body Hammer. The start of that song is absolutely brilliant. And the next question, and I believe the last question, is from Dry Bones Gamer, and this is a great question as well. And that is, do you have any of the Simpsons or South Park games? Now, I do have quite a few Simpsons games. I have every Simpsons game on PS2. South Park games, not quite as many of, as I'm more of a Simpsons than South Park fan. But my favourite South Park game is not one that many people talk about because it is quite a bad game. It's just one that I really enjoy, and that is South Park on the N64. The graphics are absolutely terrible on this game, and the gameplay isn't the best, but for some reason, I absolutely love playing this one. But my favourite Simpsons game of all time, I have this on the GameCube and PS2, and from saying that, you probably already know what it is, and that is The Simpsons Hit and Run. Again, I know many people say this, but it's so true. It's basically GTA, but for The Simpsons. It's like an open-world Simpsons game, where you can either follow the story or just do whatever you want. I like doing a bit of both when I play this game. I do like following the story, but I do like just driving around like a maniac as well, so this is an absolutely amazing game. And I think that's why it still commands quite a lot of money. This is still quite an expensive game, like on the PS2 as well, and original Xbox. But I think it's just because it's so good and in such high demand. Even though it's common, loads of people just still want it. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, please subscribe. And once again, thank you to everyone who left some questions, as there were some absolutely epic questions here. I believe I've answered them all. I don't think I've forgotten any, as there was quite a few to get through. But again, thank you to everyone who left a question. And also, once again, thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. I never ever thought I'd reach that goal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye!